It's about 12 years ago that I made my first trip to Cambodia and Thailand with a friend of mine and was exposed to something I'd never seen before. As I processed it, what I landed on is the situation was horrific, but the people were wonderful. The heart of the people who were caring for the kids that weren't their own in these refugee camps kind of resonated in a way that I didn't even know till later. It was a year later that I got invited by a dear friend to go to Haiti, and I saw something that was just more crushing to my spirit. It hurt. It was an entire country of, millions of people who had generation and generation and generation of abject poverty.
It really touched our hearts. Once we saw the plight of these children, we just couldn't turn our heads, we couldn't look away. Mike and I were just ordinary people and just living our ordinary lives. And once we went to Haiti together, God just exposed to us just an incredible calling, I guess you would say. He pierced our hearts to make a difference with our life. We just surrendered our lives and just said, God, whatever you have in mind for us, we're all in.
Everything we saw exposed us to the truth of really what was going on, because it wasn't our perception. We thought, kind of had that little Orphan Annie or Oliver Twist mentality that mom and dad died, you get moved in an orphanage home and other people take care of you, and then you get old enough to where you go out on your own. And man, nothing was further from the truth in Haiti when we were down there. It was just all kinds of factors that made no sense to us in our logic about why these kids were there, how they got there, who they were, and then what could we do about it? Because we honestly thought, well, it was a funding issue. We just have to fund them and make sure that they're okay that way. And we realized it's a relational issue. It's huge, huge difference in the way we look at our ministry today. The money is important, very, very important. You have to have it. It's the lifeblood of the ministry. But the heartbeat of the ministry comes from the relationships and falling in love with not just the kids, but the people who are taking care of the kids. The pastors, the mamas, the cooks, the caregivers, the neighbors, the community. And then that's when we started seeing really, really good change. And I think that's really what brought people outside of our friends and family in, because now you can look at and say that there's a role for everybody. You don't even have to have a desire, a heartbeat, or a calling to care for orphans. It may be education. And all of a sudden you're down there because you have a belief that you can make a difference in the education of these kids. And when that got opened up, wow.
Yeah, this ministry has been not only orphan care, but it's also been taking people down and exposing them to the needs. And it totally changes people's hearts. You come home very grateful. You experience a love like you've never experienced whenever you love on these children, and it does something really beautiful to your own heart.
When someone comes on a trip, it's amazing to watch, just in that small window of time, what can happen. You'll have a rush of children to the vehicle, and children will be screaming to be held. There's a feeling that you've been chosen by that child, because when you pick them up, or when you hold their hand, you lose sight of everything else. And when someone loses sight of themselves, they find something that they didn't even know was available, joy. They discover the joy of God. We believe in a culturally relevant, church-based level of care. And without the local church involvement, we can't do what we believe God has called us to do. We believe that God has ordained the local church who will best understand the cultural context, who will have no language barriers, no barriers of any kind, and understanding how to best provide for these kids.
We really, after a few years, thought we had the handle on what orphan care looked like. And then God had another plan again. He opened our eyes to what's it look like to actually have orphan prevention. And that led us into a whole network of things. I mean, it's everything from community where the kids come from, education for the kids, which led us into supporting and sponsoring schools at a higher level. Then it led us into food, agri-services, things like poultry operations. And then it led us into the children's uniforms, which became an entire apparel line. So today with the GoEx, we're into wholesale clothing, retail clothing, apparel lines. We're doing things like group tees. Who would have thought? So now we have this fully integrated from orphan care to orphan prevention that now involves people from all over the world.
Economic development has emerged as something at the heart of our ministry because it fits right in line with orphan prevention. When you're developing jobs, when you're creating opportunities, you've effectively broken the chain. So for that parent, they now have the means to keep their children in the home. For the child, not only is there opportunity available, there's hope. And when you put hope in someone's life, you can give them an imagination and a dream for what their life might be.
It'd be real easy to sit here today and look at what God's done in this ministry and think it's done, but it's not. We're just thankful for what you guys have done in this ministry. But I believe it's just getting started. Can you imagine this trajectory when it goes 10, 20, 30 years forward, what this is going to look like? I mean, to take this thing from Southeast Asia, from one location into Haiti, multiple locations into Haiti, and then into East Africa, India, and now right here in the United States. It was almost like God was telling us. He knew that this thing was way beyond anything that we could imagine, that He had His hand in this. So it went from just a couple that kind of had an idea, and it just continues to multiply and multiply.